Imagine June 1944, London. Residents believe the worst is over. The Blitz has ended. The Allies have landed in Normandy. Victory seems within reach. And then, a sinister, utterly alien sound reverberates from the sky. A dull roar, like a motorcycle or tractor flying directly overhead. Seconds of agonizing silence as the sound abruptly cuts out. And then, hell. An explosion that shakes everything, turning homes into rubble and peaceful lives into a nightmare. This was no airplane, no artillery shell. This was the V1, vengeance weapon, humanity's first combat deployment of a cruise missile. And it changed warfare forever. To truly grasp the terror of the V1, we must go back to the very beginning of the war. After the defeat in the Battle of Britain in 1940 to 1941, when the Luftwaffe failed to break British air defences and the RAF, Hitler realized that traditional bombing methods were too costly and ineffective against a well-defended England. He dreamed of a wonder weapon that could strike without risk to pilots, penetrate any defence, and break the British will to resist. This dream led to clandestine developments deep within Germany at the top-secret Peenemünde complex. There, under the leadership of brilliant engineers and scientists like Werner von Braun and Walter Dornberger, two projects were born: the Vi-2 ballistic missile and the significantly simpler, yet no less ominous, V-1 cruise missile. The latter was, in essence, an unmanned flying bomb, a true technological leap into the unknown. The development of the V-1 was a race against time. It featured a relatively simple design, a cylindrical fuselage, short wings, a gyroscopic guidance system, and most crucially, the Argus AS-014 pulse jet engine. This engine was simple to manufacture but had a distinctive, intermittent, pulsating sound that would soon become a harbinger of terror. Allied intelligence, thanks to agents and aerial reconnaissance, began to notice strange construction sites on the French coast in the Pas-de-Calais region by 1943. Long concrete ramps pointing towards England left no doubt. Germany was preparing something new. These sites were dubbed ski slopes due to their shape. The British recognized the threat but didn't know exactly what they were up against. Operations were launched to bomb these sites, but many remained intact. By spring 1944, with the Allied landing in Normandy imminent, Hitler ordered the accelerated deployment of the V1. He saw it as a way to halt the invasion or at least exact revenge on England for his military failures. Mass production began, and thousands of these flying bombs were ready for launch. The first V1 struck London on the night of June 12th to 13th, 1944, just a week after D-Day. Within days, hundreds of V1s rained down on England. These missiles flew at an altitude of 2,000 to 3,000 feet, 600 to 900 meters, at speeds of about 400 miles per hour, 640 kilometers per hour. Their primary weapon, a ton of high explosives. But the most terrifying aspect was their sound. Residents knew, as long as they heard the buzzing, there was hope. But when the sound cut out, only seconds remained before impact. These buzz bombs, or robot bombs, turned life in London into a constant psychological terror. Britain immediately marshaled colossal efforts to combat this new weapon. Fighter planes, high-speed aircraft like the Hawker Tempest, Spitfire, and P-51 Mustang were redeployed for interception. Pilots developed a dangerous but effective tactic: fly alongside the V1, slip a wing under its wing and flip it over, sending it off course without firing, to avoid detonating a ton of TNT too close to their own plane. Anti-aircraft guns were repositioned to the coast to create a dense barrage. Barrage balloons. Thousands of balloons with steel cables formed a physical barrier that missiles could snag on. These measures were incredibly effective. While initially only about 20 to 30% of the missiles were shot down, by the end of the campaign this figure rose to 70 to 80%. However, even those that broke through inflicted immense damage. V1AS struck not only London but also Antwerp and Liège. In total, over 10,000 V1s were launched at England, of which about 2,400 reached their targets. Over 6,000 people were killed and 17,000 wounded. Hundreds of thousands of homes were destroyed. It was a true war of nerves. Despite the psychological terror and significant casualties, the strategic impact of the V1 proved limited. Why? Low accuracy. While the V1 was capable of reaching London, its guidance system was primitive. It was effective only as a weapon of terror against large urban agglomerations, but completely unsuitable for striking specific military or industrial targets. High interception rate. British defences quickly adapted, and the percentage of downed missiles continuously increased. This reduced the effectiveness of the campaign. Insufficient quantity. Although thousands of V1s were launched, this was a drop in the ocean compared to the tonnage of bombs dropped by Allied air forces on Germany. Germany could not produce them in quantities large enough to have a decisive strategic impact. Too late. The V1 campaign began when the Allies had already landed in Normandy. It failed to halt the invasion and merely diverted resources that could have been used on the front. In essence, the V1 became an expensive and psychologically draining but ultimately unsuccessful attempt by Germany to turn the tide of the war. It did not break the British fighting spirit but only strengthened their resolve. Nevertheless, it was the first harbinger of future wars, changing perceptions of long-range weaponry. The V1 campaign effectively ended in autumn 1944 when the Allies liberated northern France and Belgium, capturing or destroying most of the launch sites. However, this was not the end of vengeance weapons. The V1 was succeeded by the significantly more powerful and terrifying V2 ballistic missile, which was impossible to intercept. But that, as they say, is another story. The V1, despite its limitations, will forever be remembered as the first combat deployment of a cruise missile. It showed that war could come from nowhere, without warning, without a pilot. It was the birth of a new era in warfare, an era of missile technology that continues to evolve to this day. From the pulsating roar of the V1 to high-precision cruise missiles capable of striking targets thousands of miles away, there is a direct technological lineage. London survived this assault, but the scar of the buzz bombs remained in the memory of a generation. The story of the V1 is not only a tale of technological breakthrough, but also of human resilience in the face of unseen terror. It serves as a reminder of how quickly technology can change the face of war. What are your thoughts on the V1? Do you see it as a true wonder weapon of its time, or merely a psychological terror? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dives into the mysteries of history.